Yeah. And of course, we are live. So let me just say welcome everybody to yet another live chat inside our situation update series. Joining me this evening, man, today, whenever you get to view this, because you know how we do it, right? Is of course Gideon Henry. Now, like the description says, the man is a homegrown cybersecurity expert. But I don't talk enough. So I'm just going to let Gideon jump on in here and just tell our viewers, subscribers, a little bit more about yourself before we get into the meat of the matter tonight, right? Gideon?
Yes. Yeah. Good evening, all. And JP, I'm really glad to be on the show tonight. So thanks for having me. Just to give a background in what I do. At the moment, I work with global organizations. At the moment, a bank as a consultant to provide advice on cybersecurity and how they manage their risk when it comes to cybersecurity. Um, Apart from just working with the banks, I do philanthropy work as well. I work with young kids. When I say kids, I mean people of different ages, people moving into colleges and that type of stuff to just update them on the importance of cybersecurity and how to be safe when they're actually online.
Beautiful. Because that is, in essence, well, both of those parts of your being are, in essence, what we want to explore a little bit for a live chat for this episode. Let me just send a quick shout out to our partners. We've got some behind the scenes people who always help to make the situation update experience a nice vibe. Let me just say a very heartwarming thank you to JR Designs, to of course Concept Solution, our digital partners, and of course our corporate partner, Diamond Grocery Inc. Remember, people, if you have to do supermarket, please find yourself in Diamond or in Calico, right? Good, beautiful. Gideon, man. So you're Vincentian. You're from what countryside, actually?
Yes,
Dixon.
that's it. Born and raised Vincentian. I grew up in Dixon, Dixon, close to Georgetown. For those of us here who's not exactly sure where Dixon is, we call it Georgetown, but it's Dixon.
Come on, all right. In the back of Georgetown. But
That's
what
it.
I'm curious about is how how does a country boy get so involved in a thing as remote as cybersecurity, so much so that he's advising banks and whatnot.
Well, JP, I know people might think it's remote. It's probably just because they're not actually understanding how prevalent it is. It's very ubiquitous, to be honest. But let's take it back a step. Born and raised in Dixon, like most of the people here, parents are hardworking farmers. That's what they do. That's what they do to get you to school, go to grammar school, go to college, and then you end up deciding what you're going to do with your life. For me, I made a decision to join the Royal Navy back in 2003. So then being in the Navy and understanding security from that side of things, that kind of piqued my interest into it. But once I was in the Navy, which is just going to flip the thing on the head for a bit, I wasn't actually involved in cybersecurity. I was more involved with what they would call a writer, but that's more clerical work, pay, personnel, that type of stuff. But the Navy itself is still built around, you know, security, whether it's physical security, whether it's just understanding, how to be safe in different environments. That's what the military is all about. So that kind of gave me an interest into it. But when I left the Navy, and this is the interesting part, what I did, I made a conscious decision to move into something that I personally think is going to be a right step in the right direction for my career. So I moved to India for about 3.5 months just to do courses in IT and cybersecurity. I spent like I said about 3.5 months in India.
Why India though?
I'll tell you why India. Um, India has a lot of training and they're really good. But also the cost itself is really good in comparison to if I was to do that in England. For instance, if I was to do one of the courses I did in England, I can get like 5 courses in that same sector in India because of the
Wow.
conversion of the rate,
Wow.
and also because of how cheap they are in India. And it also depends on where you decide to study as well, because you can find really expensive schools or colleges in India that can provide, very high level. But if you want to get into the gist of it and you want to do it in a more cost effective manner, India is a good place to do that.
Hmm.
Right?
All right, all
Yeah.
right, all right. So let's bring it home a little bit now. So
Yes.
when we first spoke, right?
Yes.
What basically got our juices flowing was really your passion for wanting to correct some of the mistakes you've noticed that our Vincentian
Yes.
populace tend to make, especially on our social
Yes.
media. So
That's it.
let's take the conversation, Dave, if you will, please.
Yes. Okay. Let's move across to social media for a bit, because cybersecurity has so many different aspects of it. You can deal with it from a corporate perspective. If you think you've got your organization, you're trying to secure that from hackers who's trying to get in, break in, and steal secrets, and that type of stuff. But then we've got the social media side, which is more liberal. And I think what is happening, because we're living in a world where it is so easy to give up information. People are not actually recognizing what they're doing whilst they're on social media. We tend to give away so much information whilst we're there. You know, if you go on social media, you can tell how many kids someone has have. You can tell their date of birth. You can tell their birthday. You can tell when they're home. As a matter of fact, in places in a few stories that's been reported, hackers are actually looking at celebrities to look at their social media sites to see when they're away, so that they can actually hack or break into their burgle their homes, because they know, hey, they would say, I'm on holiday, I'm in Egypt or something like that, and they'll say, right, perfect time to break in. So the point I'm trying to make is this: on social media, we're so used to giving up so much information freely, and we're not recognizing how important that information is, or how damaging that information is in the hands of the wrong person, in the person who knows how to collate that information and actually use it against you. So,
How could that information be weaponized? Do you think?
fine. You're on social media, and let's say you join one of the sites where you think, okay, this is somebody who's a friend. They can have a picture that looks like somebody you might think, or something like that. He says, oh, this is a friend. You start speaking with this person. This person is pulling all sort of information from you. It's looking at your pages. It's looking at what your page posting on a daily basis. By looking at that, they start to deduce certain information about you. They can tell where you live. They can tell, okay, how many kids you've got, um, where they actually go to school, information like that. And from that, what they can start to do, because loads of people would use for passwords and stuff, like information like their kid's date of birth, their address, their kid's name, just linking that so they can brute force. Brute force is the term that we use when they just keep repeating several passwords or different passwords to try and get the right one. And you've got quite good software, John the Ripper and stuff like that, that can do that, brute force and get passwords quite easily. So by deducing this information, they can actually pull really good information from what you're posting there, and they can use that to actually break into your passwords, get a passwords, get into your social media. Um, I'm gonna share a bit of a story of an incident that I had recently. I'm not going to call any names or make any exact reference so that the person can be detected, but it is someone that I work with who's very senior in a very large organization. And he reached out to me because his wife's Facebook account was hacked. And the hacker was very, very clever. What they did, they impersonated someone from Facebook, and because they were so
From the
convincing
company.
from the company. And this is the lens that the hackers
Mm-hmm.
are going they're going to get information, especially if they find you're a high target individual. And if they can get information from you, what can they get in terms of, let's say you're a CEO from an organization or something like that? You know, they to go to the lengths to trick you into thinking that they're actually genuine, and they're very convincing in what they do. So this person gave up the information thinking that this person was actually someone working at Facebook. As a result, it got hacked. They couldn't access their Facebook. But not only that, the hacker was able to get into their private network, which is their, home environment, your Wi-Fi and stuff like that, to see what other devices were there, to see how can we break into any other devices. Because I think what they're trying to do is actually get to the individual, the high flying individual, and not necessarily the wife. The wife was a step
Okay.
in, and
So the
these are the
husband.
lens. Yeah, so the husband is the person that they wanted to get to. They couldn't get that information from him so easy, so they targeted the wife. And this is the pivot they would move. They are very clever in how they actually go about doing their business. That's just a short.
How
Go on, JP.
I've noticed, and before I pose that next question, let me just say to the persons who are logging on, thank you so very much for joining. Remember, of course, you can share your thoughts, your comments with us, and we will pop them up on the screen, of course. And if you have questions for our guest, Gideon, please feel free to share as well. I'm sure he would answer as best as he could. But
Most certainly.
WhatsApp made some claims very recently about encrypting our conversations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they have basically been, certainly for me, a major part of my social network. How secure is that particular network? Could Facebook possibly be as secure as WhatsApp claimed to be?
Right, that's a very, very good question, and I'm gonna dodge that a little bit because when it comes to companies like that, I I do not work for the company. I do not know the details inside out, but I know what WhatsApp claim to have is end-to-end encryption. With end-to-end encryption, when you send a message from your phone, it is automatically encrypted at that end. No one can see that message until it gets to the other end. So the only person who can unencrypt that is the person who actually receives that message. So that's what they mean when they say end-to-end encryption. Um, when it comes to Facebook itself, I am not at liberty to comment on that to say how secure it is. The point I'm trying to make about social media sites and not just Facebook is the information that you put in there. You're putting up so much information that is just juicy details for hackers. And that's what I'm trying to explain to individuals. Just be a little bit more conscious
About the information you share.
about the information you readily, without even asking, share on
And
Facebook.
this is not just what you plug into the fields in terms of your name and date of birth and place of birth and so on, but also even in the images.
Exactly. In the images, who are in the images? Who are these people who you're closely linked with? Because there's a lot that can be deduced from that as well. Recently, BBC shared a program where they're actually educating people that's using social media on how easy it is for someone to actually just scroll your web, look at your Facebook, your social media pages, all of that stuff, and the amount of information they can pull from that, it is unbelievable. When they actually showed individuals the amount of information that they got, they were gobsmacked. They were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe by just trawling through these social media sites and just collecting information that is just readily available. Um, there is something that we refer to in our space as a digital footprint. A digital footprint is anything that you upload digitally in that cyberspace. Don't believe that because you deleted it that it is gone for good. Just be careful what you put in that space because the more sites you go to, the more images you upload, the more comments you make, it is actually increasing your digital footprint, and it's easy for someone to actually just scrounge the web, have a good look from all different locations, and just collate that information and get a very, very juicy details about yourself and also individuals that you've been keep posting stuff about. think, JP, I'm not sure if I've lost you for a bit. Right. I think we've lost JP for a bit, but um, I think for those of you who are still listening, I'll just continue speaking along the lines of using social media and the information that you put out there. And another thing that I think people should be mindful of is that I recognize that children are just allowed to browse the internet unsupervised. And in my opinion, this is very dangerous because I don't think children understand the actual, the risk involved when they're, posting stuff, doing on this site, because, they don't understand that that digital footprint is there and it can come back to haunt them later on in their life. As a matter of fact, there were instances where someone who was a minister of parliament in the UK had to actually resign because of something that he had said or commented a number of years before he was even an MP. And so the point I'm trying to make is you do stuff on the internet today thinking that you're young and innocent, but this can still have a lasting impact on your life. As a matter of fact, and in the MP's case, it can actually cause you a job, an employment. JP, I'm not sure if you're on. Um, hmm. Again, I'm not sure if we're still live streaming. We seem to have lost our host for this evening. I think we just give it a couple of minutes to see what's going to happen from here.
Like that.
Yes, I think our host has
Okay.
just returned. Yes.
Yes. So forgive me there for that break in transmission, guys. It would seem that I ran out of data on my end. I had to reset that. It happens. It's a live show, right?
It's live.
To answer, I'm getting some questions here. Some folks are very curious about our software. This is Streamia, and it's one of the benefits of using Streamia. I literally just dropped out for a few, but the stream kept on, right? All right. So please, let me do it the weird way. Let me know where you were before I dropped out, or before I came back in for the matter.
Yeah. So just before you dropped out, we were speaking about I was speaking about a BBC program where someone was able to post loads of information. And when you dropped out for a bit, I actually touched on an incident where a member of parliament actually lost a job because of something that he commented on, comments that he made a number of years previous in his life. And I said that to reiterate that while you think it's innocent what you're doing at this point in time, it can have a lasting effect because that digital footprint is still there and it can come back to bite you or haunt you later on in the future.
Let me take the conversation a little bit further. There's been an incident here. It's not at all widely reported. As a matter of fact, it's something that Situation Update is putting some effort into investigating. And while you're here, maybe you can help to guide the thoughts. So there's a local businessman who attempted to purchase some goods, vehicle parts actually, from the Far East. And as it happened, he got swindled. It didn't happen on his first or second try with this particular outfit, but it happened eventually. So he would have bought items from this business before, And I think on his third order, his purchase power went up considerably. And as it happened, he never got back his money. He never got the container of vehicle and vehicle parts that he was expecting. The thing is, there seems to be no recourse for this gentleman because on the other side of the transaction, it's in Japan, and we seem to have no investigative powers to that side of the world. What sort of advice would you give to persons finding themselves in situations like this, or to avoid getting themselves in situations like this?
I think first and foremost, people need to recognize that once you're doing transactions online, especially when you're buying from foreign countries, you're actually taking a risk. You need to really assess that risk before you make that decision. People would preferably use, more reputable companies that they know of, that's been around for a while. You stand to be a little bit more secure. But what people, I can understand what they're doing, their businesses, and so they're actually looking to source whatever the goods are at a good price. And again, hackers are aware of this. They're aware of this, so it is very easy to them to say, okay, we can get you something for the good price. But then they're thinking long term. It shows the depth at which hackers are willing to go to when they're actually, putting their plot together. They know the small fry is just a couple of purchases that you're going to do. People are going to do that. They're going to test the waters. They'll do some purchasing just to make sure, is this a reputable company? Is it good? Am I going to get the goods? So you go in small in the first instance, and they recognize that. So they'll source the parts for you. But when it gets to the large orders now, which is the money that they're looking for, then is when they'll just disappear with the money and you don't hear from them again. So you really need to be extremely careful when you're actually buying stuff online. When you're going to these sites online, a lot of them, they're designed because they're good. They're designed to look reputable and everything, but you need to verify who they are. Verify that they've
How
actually.
do you verify? How is there a sort of digital fingerprint you could possibly access? I don't know.
It's going to be difficult, but what usually happens is in each country you would have to register your business properly so you can search the country registries. For instance, if you're a legit business here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you have to have your business properly registered so someone can actually look up and see that you've got a business, a legit business that's running. you know um that's another thing that can happen, but it might be difficult to actually find that out. But you tend to stick with the ones that the larger companies that's been operating for a very long time. you know these are companies that's been around for a while. The reason they've been around for a while is because they're successful in what they do and they're businesses that you can trust. So this is where you, as a person who's going off to make these purchases, you need to think about, okay, what's the risk here? How do I manage the risk? Do I go for something that is new, cheap, cheerful, with very high risk? Or do I pay the money, which is going to cost me a little bit more, but go for some, company that I know is a reputable company that's been around for ages, who I know I can do business to it, who I know has a customer service that I can reach out to if anything goes wrong. So managing the risk here is something that you need to really consider when involved in transactions where you're purchasing stuff from overseas.
All right, all right. Before we switch gears, because as promised, I would love to explore a little bit of your social interest as well.
Yes.
Let me again send some love and appreciation to our partner, a corporate partner, Diamond Grocery Incorporated, located, of course, in Diamond Estate, Prospect, Stubbs, sandwiched in between there, right? And of course, out there in Caliacor, right? And of course, let me just say some shout outs. If you need some digital marketing management, them kind of scenes, check out my people's Concept Solutions on your social media, man. And JR Designs help to make us look good, so we got to send them some love as well, all right? Your social interest, my brother. Take us there.
Yes. um, I've told you a little bit about my background, where I'm from Dixon, son of farmers, that type of stuff. And having traveled and actually found myself in a good position where I'm doing, a really good job, you know, consultancy and everything, it always plays on my mind that, you should try to give back where possible. And as a result of that, whilst I'm in England, I involve myself in different, mentoring programs. As a matter of fact, I am a facilitator for this group that's called, it's a Google initiative. It is called, let me just make sure I get the name right. I Am Remarkable. And I Am Remarkable, it seeks to empower women underprivileged groups. That was what was the original intent of it. But then they recognize, it's not just women who are not able to speak up of their accomplishments, but there are people from disadvantaged backgrounds, different ethnicities or cultures who think about, if you speak about your accomplishments, that you're actually bragging. And so you've been told, don't speak about it. But the research has shown that people who are not able to speak about their own accomplishments are less likely, to do well or get promoted, because there's someone who's shouting on the rooftop, this is me, this is how great I am, this is what I can do. Who do you think is going to get the promotion? Let's just wear it up. And you sat in the corner doing a fantastic job, an excellent job. You might even be much better than that person who's shouting, but you're not getting noticed because you're not saying anything about it. So that's one of the things that I get involved with. So I host sessions and have workshops on that, just to encourage people to learn to do that. But here in St. Vincent, whilst I'm here, um, I've just registered to start a group. It's called a Friends of Dixon group. Um, Myself and a few others from Dixon, and other people from outside Dixon again. We've come together to form a group, and the objective of this group is to actually work with kids. We're targeting kids from like age 10 to 16, to work with them to provide like a compass in life, and help them engage in different activities, whether we use sports as a baseline, and attach some mentoring to that to provide guidance, or whether we get involved in, providing someone in a field like, let's say, an entrepreneur, to provide, some advice into entrepreneurship, so that people can actually, the kids at that age can actually explore different possibilities and options. But what we want them to be the drivers of any of the projects that we're doing. And this is something that we've got in the pipeline. Like I said, we're in the process of registering the group. As soon as that is fully registered, then we're hoping to have a launch in Dixon, so that we can, make everyone aware of what we're wanting to do in Dixon.
What brought you to that? What inspired you to that particular social undertaking?
I think, for me, I recognize that if you've got someone in your corner who's able to steer you in life, you're more likely to make better choices in life. I look at myself when I was growing up, and I went to grammar school. To be honest, I was all over the place, doing all sorts, when I should be in school. I'm in Bottom Town playing Street Fighter, Yankees type stuff. I can remember those days, and I'm thinking, whilst they were fun and everything, and I'm thinking to myself, he says, you know what, if I just had someone to actually steer or guide me along, I could have made better choices in my life. And even as now, I'm involved in all these different activities in the UK. I do have a mentor as well, and I recognize the importance of a mentor. So that's what I'm
At
saying.
this
If
stage in your development, you're telling me you have a mentor, somebody
I do
you
have a
reach out
mentor.
to.
Yes, I have a mentor that I can reach out to, who provides advice and guidance, who opens doors, who actually links me into different networks. And this is what I want to explore or bring to the front, that mentorship doesn't always have to be at a junior level. Mentorship can be something that can be done throughout your entire life. You can always have a mentor that you can refer to, that you can bounce ideas off, who can provide guidance, and an honest opinion, to help steer you in life.
Hmm. So two questions that are coming at me, by the way, here. I don't know why they're not popping up on my screen. Uh, One harks back to the previous topic. How safe are we here? Can our government listening on our conversations? Is pretty much the gist of it. So I'll let you tackle that one first, and I'll see if I could phrase the other one for you.
Right. I do not want to cause any fear or concern here. I think people think that, oh my goodness, anyone can do anything on the internet. But there are ways that you can be safe on the internet. Right. I'm gonna put this out there. This is a disclaimer. Um, all these stuff that we're using was created by man, and man has all kind of fancy ways of trying to get around. But if we create it, then they can break it as well. But there are steps that you can take to try and secure yourself. I don't want to go too deep into the cybersecurity and starting to get people a little bit paranoid, about what type of tools you can use, or try not to use too much of the internet. Be careful what you say, switch devices off in your houses and stuff like that. But the question is, does the government have a capacity to actually listen into people's conversation? I cannot comment on that. I know
Locally, yeah?
locally is what I'm speaking about. I know internationally
Right.
it is possible. As a matter of fact, it's been reported that, America's been listening and some of the heads of state as well. But locally, I'm not aware of what our local government can do. So I am not at liberty to speak on that. I would say if you've got concerns on whether or not your conversations can be listened to, then you need to be a little bit more careful what you say when you're having your conversation, and ensure that your devices are more secure when using them.
Okay. That prompts a question like, how do I secure my device?
How do I secure my device? JP, you're trying to get me into the depths of stuff here now. You're trying to get me into the depths of stuff here now. Right. End-to-end encryption is one of the best ways you can secure your device. Encryption is one of the best ways you can secure your device. So what people tend to do is they will get themselves involved in or purchase like a VPN service, that encrypts the traffic that is leaving your device and bouncing off from a different encryption server and then making its way to, you know, the destination that you intended in the first place. And that's the major way that people actually secure their devices, by using encryption. There are different levels of encryption that we can get into, but again, it is really detailed, and it probably wouldn't
Is
even
it
make it probably wouldn't even make much sense to a lot of people who's listening to here. I am not professing to be a hacker, someone who can evade all that type of stuff. It's just because I'm involved in this sector that I'm aware of what people do, what can be done, and how hackers do actually get into stuff like that.
okay? When you started talking about your social interest, you said that one of the things that brought you to where you are is uh, some people's reluctance to more or less market themselves,
Yes.
to paraphrase, right? Um, but you said something that resonated. You were saying basically, that reluctance could cost you that next promotion, or uh, that next job, that next opportunity. How do you balance marketing yourself with ensuring that you're protected, using your social media? Because in this day and age, I'm going to want to use my LinkedIn to that benefit. I'm going to want to use my Instagram. You see where I'm going with this. So how do you strike that balance?
Okay. So if I step back a bit, when I say being able to speak up about what you do, it's not just, and I'm glad you pointed out that you can do this in different means. Loads of people think that it's the only thing you can do is go to social media. Social media is a really good platform to get yourself out there. Excellent platform to get yourself out there. But I'll reiterate what I said in the past. Be careful what you're saying in social media. So, for instance, if you want to market yourself on social media, by all means do so. If, let's say, you've created a really good program and there's quite a few people that's benefited from it, feel free to say, this is what I've done. I have created programs and there's the people who's benefited from there. You don't have to necessarily go into the details of who has benefited unless you've got the consent of these people to do that. But by saying that, it means you're being recognized for what you've done. This is something that you have done. So stuff like that you can actually put there, because you want to get that information out there. And also, um, let's pull it back to the old school as well. Let's say you're going
Hmm.
for a job
Hmm.
interview and someone is asking you, okay, then so tell me what you've accomplished or what you've done. A lot of people don't feel comfortable saying I. They'll probably use, oh, we've done this on my team or something, just to make it look as though I am not bragging or boasting. But the point I'm trying to make
Hmm.
is if you have done it, then you shouldn't regard it as boasting. That is something that you have done. You should feel proud about it. You should be able to speak freely about it and also get the credit for doing what you've done.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. We are in that stretch. Final thought kind of
Yes.
thing. I know I took a chunk out of your Friday evening, and you're a very busy man.
Yes.
So if we could transition to there, yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly with that question, JP. Just explain a bit.
Oh,
Transition
I'm
to,
sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yes, I realize I sort of truncated it a little bit. So
Yes.
I'm wanting to wrap things up on our live chat
Yes.
for this particular episode.
Yes.
Uh, so I'm asking you to gather your thoughts
Yes.
and share, in terms of a summary type final
Okay.
thought.
Okay. So for me, I'll reiterate again. When you're showing information, just be careful what you're showing on the internet. There are different steps that you can use to be a little bit more secure. Think of your passwords. What type of passwords are you using? Are you actually changing the password? What is the length of the password? Moreover, are you using multi-factor authentication? Multi-factor authentication is you're using two separate ways of authenticating when you're trying to get into your accounts. So for instance, um, if I try to log into my email account, it would have to ask for a password, but then I would have to go to my mobile device to then authorize that, because a hacker can actually get your password and get into your email address without you even knowing. But then having that second backup or that multi-factor authentication, it allows you if someone is trying to get in there. And moreover, it means that person would not be able to get into your account because they cannot validate with that second authentication factor. That's a really good way of securing your emails and on all your online accounts using multi-factor authentication. Um, Other things that I wanted to point out, and I think this is quite dangerous. I mentioned it when you were when you got cut off for a bit. Is the unmanned use where children are just allowed to use any device on the internet without any supervision, and I think it is quite dangerous because
Mm.
children are not always sure what they're doing. They're not aware of the dangers, and what I know for certain, because these are reports has happened, there are people who would actually pretend to be a child on there. People who are stalking kids, whether they're pedophiles or whosoever, in trafficking, kids trafficking and everything. They will pretend to be that friendly child, speak to that person just to get that person on board. So please do monitor what your kids are doing or watching when they're on these devices. Just don't leave them to their own device, because a lot of people, they would pretend to be someone who's friendly, someone who's nice, and the whole object is to win your trust. And once they have won your trust and you divulge any information for them, then is when they'll strike. So just be careful of that. And so in a nutshell, just be really careful when you're using the internet. It is a wonderful place, but it's also a very dangerous place because the truth is there are bad people out there.
Indeed, indeed. Of
Yes.
course, you would let us know when Friends of Dixon goes live.
Of course, Jeffy, I will definitely keep you in the scoop. As a matter of fact, I will give you the inside information before anything else so that you know and you can update people who've actually been listening to the program who's interested to know what Friends of Dixon is and exactly what they're doing. So certainly, I will inform you when
Of
we've gone
course,
live.
of course. And just for the folks who will join us after, I know we don't have a set time for the live chats just yet, but
Yes.
this is how it is for now. All right. Please feel free to
Yes.
send us your comments, your thoughts, and of course we get them to the guest, Gideon Henry,
Yes.
and he will, leaning on our newfound friendship, respond as best as he can. All right.
Yes,
Thanks again,
JP.
Gideon, and all the best.
Yes. Thanks for
All
having me,
right.
JP, and
Till
good
we see
night
you
to
again,
everyone
man.
who's listening tonight. Take care. Good night, all.
All right. Blessings.